I'd like to welcome everyone to this session, which is a training session to learn how to assess digital ulcers and scleroderma. My name is Murray Barron. I'm the Chief of Rheumatology at the Jewish General Hospital at McGill University and the Director of the Canadian Scleroderma Research Group. And I'd like to go around the room and have everyone introduce. I've seen patients with scleroderma for 30 years. So I'd like to go around the room and just have everyone introduce themselves, tell us where you're from, your name, and how long you've been seeing scleroderma patients, just so that the people that listen and watch the video will have some idea about who we are.
Janet Pope, rheumatologist at the University of Western Ontario in London, Canada. And after my fellowship, I got interested in scleroderma. So since about 91, 93, and there I've been seeing scleroderma patients.
I'm Geneviève Gigé, so I did my training, a fellowship in scleroderma here at the GGH, and I did a special specialization in video capillaroscopy with the video cap. And I did see scleroderma patients since 2 years.
Good morning, Dinesh Khanna. I'm at University of Michigan. I'm a rheumatologist and I've been seeing scleroderma patients for the last 5 years.
I'm Amisha at Johns Hopkins University and I've been seeing scleroderma patients for 5 years.
I'm Marie Hudson. I'm a rheumatologist at McGill University. I'm also part of the Canadian Scleroderma Research Group, and I've been seeing patients for, I'd say, 5 years.
I'm Laura Hummers from Johns Hopkins University. I'm a rheumatologist, and I've been seeing scleroderma patients for 8 years.
I'm Maureen Mays from the University of Texas in Houston, and I've been seeing scleroderma patients since 1981, which puts me at 31 years.
I'm Virginia Steve from Georgetown University, but I'll just stick about 30 years. 30.
I'm Lori Chung from Stanford University, and I've been focusing on scleroderma since my fellowship since 2003.
So now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about measuring ulcers, which we're going to try to do today. And we're going to use this instrument, which is a digital caliper. All right?
Has anyone used it?
I'll show you when we see the patient.
A digital caliper?
I have one in front of me, but we'll show it when we see the patient, okay?
Yeah.
So basically the digital caliper measures the distance between these 2 points, this point and that point, and it gives you a digital readout, all right?
So we're only measuring active ulcers, not indeterminate ones, because...
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think that based on what Maureen said, that if you want to prove that the ulcer is smaller, that you probably should measure indeterminate ulcers.
But only
the open area.
Ooh,
because what we saw was a
Okay,
big
so
one
what-
that now has,
Okay.
an area, but now the crust has...
And what you don't want to do is start poking that area, by the
Correct.
way.
So,
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
so we will
Okay,
show
here's the
some...
active
Now it's an
ulcer.
active ulcer again.
So we will show some photos of that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
And basically, it's not a good drawing, but you want to measure the long axis. Let's assume they're somewhat elliptical and the perpendicular axis, okay? All right. You want to measure each of these 3 times, and in the end, for the study purposes, you would probably use the mean. I mean, I made that up, but it sounds good. This machine, you always reset the machine to 0. You close it, the caliper's all the way, and there's a 0 point. You reset it to 0. I'll show you before you do it, okay? When you make the second measurement and the third measurement, you don't look at the readout while you're doing it, because you don't want to bias in this study today, or in a real ulcer study. You don't want to bias yourself, all right? And it's easy to do that without looking at the measurement, because you're concentrating on the ulcer, not the numbers, all right? The basic problem here, as you'll see, is you have to decide where to make the measurement, from what point to what point. We want to measure the active surface area of the ulcer, but we will come to that because in indeterminate ulcers that may not be the truth, all right? And we'll talk about that, okay? So for example, where is this an ulcer?
Yes.
Yeah.
This doesn't fit into the gangrene concept
Yet.
Yet.
yet,
It's pretty big.
It's close.
okay?
Yeah.
So where do we make, where is the long axis? Would you sort of say maybe from here to here?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'd start making your measurements from where the red
Yeah.
ends. Would you agree with that? Like
Yeah.
about that point
Yes,
there?
Yeah.
Straight line.
Okay, what about the other axis here? Perpendicular to this one,
Right.
maybe from here to where? We're at the nail.
There, way up in there where you can't
I don't
tell.
know.
Not
That-
there, but The nail's lifted to somewhere in there, maybe.
Well, somewhere is not good
Yeah,
enough.
the tissue, where the tissue
Where the
ends,
tissue
not where
ends.
it's kind of bled into that funny thing under the nail.
Right, and
So
that's.
here,
where
to this
yeah.
point here.
Yeah, but I can't
yeah.
tell where that ends up there, like maybe visually you can, but you're not exactly certain. Which is gonna give not a lot, 4 millimeters difference, but it could give a millimeter difference.
What is the
Where you
thickness
draw.
of these calipers? Because
What is the what?
thick, how thick are these calipers? Because you're showing an example which is a big ulcer. Most of the ulcers, active ulcers we were defining were very, very small.
Yes. These calipers can
Yeah.
measure very small things if you
Yeah.
want to include those things.
And why would we started at the de-epithelialization? I mean, there is redness, but you
Mhm.
see that there is a
crater.
deep.
Here
Yeah.
you'd start, the other possibility is to start here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
think
would-
this is de-epithelialization, no?
That's where I would start where the crater starts.
Me too.
I wouldn't.
The
I would
edge of
actually
the
start at
crater.
red.
No,
Is
because
where I would start.
So,
No, because
so the
yeah, I started.
intraradar reliability is more important for this than inter, really, if you're
Right.
following ulcers over time.
Yeah, but we should try hard to make that
Yeah.
a rule.
Standardized.
Right.
Definitely.
You want an
Judy,
agreement.
Judy, where
So-
would you start your measurement on the
Where the de-epithelialization
Yeah.
starts.
so can
At
you show
the
us though?
Yeah,
crater.
just move it around a bit. Roll it.
Yeah, kinda give us a sense.
Exactly. That's where I would start.
There,
Yeah.
not
Okay.
where it's red.
No.
No, okay, see, I think that the skin has lifted off, that skin is peeling.
Yes.
And so you've got re-epitheliation.
I think that's healed.
epithelialization.
I think
It's
you have to
healed.
look at it
Right,
whether
start to-
So I do it
it's a
with
crater
red.
like this
But
or
even a crater can heal. I mean, you know, the crater's
Yeah.
healed. They don't have
Well, because some, that will have pulp loss, it already does.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
See,
that
I probably thought that
Yeah.
the ulcer, the active part of the ulcer was ending around that
Yeah.
red
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what
Yeah,
I
On
would
the other
say.
see,
hand,
this
if-
skin
by
lifting off, and that's,
But
I
you
would
don't
say
know if it's-
epithelialization here, so
I-
I would start at the
I think
Yeah,
from-
millimeter
and it's
there.
consistent
Yeah.
You,
with
you
the,
started where it's red.
Yeah,
where it's red or where the crater starts.
Where it's red.
where it's red. I mean,
Yeah.
On
So
the other
would I.
hand, I would argue if the definition is an area of
I absolutely
de-epithelialization,
agree.
oh,
that's
see,
where
start
we
really
might
too.
okay, so this is
consistently start. So where the skin drops,
epithelialization.
the crater
But where the skin
The
drops
whole
is,
thing is
that's
and this
skin.
is where the skin is lifted off, it's just flaking.
Yeah.
But see, this part is the same as this part here. Just because the skin is lifting off doesn't mean that,
We can't see.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, assuming the skin is not lifting off there, I think we should agree what Marie just said, that where the area of de-epithelialization starts.
Because
Yes,
I'll
but
tell
where
you
the
what
crater
could happen
starts.
on this patient.
Well,
We
no,
could still
crater doesn't
have-
mean
Right,
de-epithelialization.
So we could have, if we measure from here, and say it's a long enough study, so X number of weeks later, they come back, and the open area is just here, but we still have a divot, you'd still be measuring the same length. That's why I'm trying to go where I think it's open to, I have no idea,
To the
somewhere
nail.
maybe there it's ending, I have no idea where it's ending. Because otherwise, that person's gonna heal with the crater.
Yeah,
It's
and-
highly
and-
likely there's tissue loss that's permanent there.
No,
Highly
but
likely.
but the crater has re-epithelialization, so you start where there is no. So I'm not sure whether that skin is sloughing, I mean the new skin out there, or.
See, I
or-
thought, right,
I think this is
so-
new skin.
See, I thought,
Well, it's
Yeah.
hard
I
to-
think there's partial well, this is an active ulcer, but it has some partial healing in here, I
Yeah.
thought. So that's why I'm sort of picking here and not here. And that way you could get a 50% improvement that we'd all agree is clinically relevant, even though it might not be an endpoint over time, right? That there's still gonna be a divot down, but they keep healing in, healing in, healing in.
So what do you propose? We should look at the area of erythema there,
Well,
and, I mean, what do you propose?
I think
Don't wanna call it erythema.
yeah,
I'd have to call it-
I don't think this is de-epithelialized, this space. I think this
Correct.
is new skin growing in here.
Yes.
And I think this is really the unhealed part from here on in.
Yes.
And that's why I would make my measurement from here.
Okay.
So let's look at some of the other photos. It might help a
It's
little
just how we're
bit,
gonna
okay?
define that. Yeah.
Oh.
How do we deal with ulcers that are too small to measure and too big or too irregular or go
Or a
under
zillion
the
of
nail? You know?
Yeah, we didn't talk
I mean,
about under
this-
the nail.
We agree this is an ulcer?
I don't know.
Indeterminate, because it's got a
Okay, it's
scabby part.
indeterminate. We
But
decide
if it
we want to
started as
measure.
active, it has to be measured now.
We want to
Yes.
measure an indeterminate ulcer.
Right.
Now, if you say, go a little bit down, Is that an ulcer?
I think this is one big lesion. I think
Well,
this is
but
just,
you know, if
this
that
is just
wasn't
crust.
active, I mean, how do you, if there was a small area of de-epithelialization there, how would you measure it with this thing?
Well, first of all, I would say this whole thing is the ulcer, that you don't measure a part within an ulcer.
No,
The
no.
problem is how do you measure this?
The active.
You're-
Okay, so
you're
if there's a
questioning whether you
small area
classify
of
that as active.
de-epithelialization, you still want us to measure the
Well,
whole
it's an
ulcer?
indeterminate ulcer. The whole ulcer is,
Right.
well, even if you call it active,
Even
but it's
focal.
active because of this one little area
Yeah.
of deepithelialization. You still want to measure the whole ulcer,
Well,
including
but,
the indeterminate part.
but the last concept you said was different.
Yeah.
Because there was
You're
skin though, I thought that was skin.
Yeah, it was
actually.
skin.
Sorry.
Re-epithelialized.
That you
Yeah.
could see.
Re-epithelialized.
That's when you could see it. It was re-epithelialized. If you can't see it,
Epithelialized, it was de-epithelialized at the beginning.
Yes.
So it's not
Right.
completely re-epithelialized.
no, so you measure the epithelialized, re-epithelialized part. But in this case, this is indeterminate. You don't know exactly where epithelialization and de-epithelialization start. So you measure the whole thing that you call the ulcer.
So where would you draw your
Well,
lines
I
to
think it would be
start?
very hard. I mean,
Right.
let's say the long axis is here.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I would use probably,
Right.
now,
Yeah.
here, is it here or is it here?
Around them.
Well, I don't think that will, but
I think
yeah.
it would be even harder than that, because what if that whole thing started off to be an ulcer? Now you have that little part there, and then you have a part up on the
left.
at 10 o'clock there.
Yeah.
So is that part of the same thing now?
Well, let's call
and,
this
and
another.
the same thing just down to the left of that.
Yeah. I think you have to call them other lesions and decide on each of these individually what to do.
But now you've had one ulcer,
Yeah,
and
now
now
you're
you've
gonna
got
measure
three ulcers.
Whereas it's a markedly
Oh, unless it was the same
smaller-
ulcer
It
before.
was the same
That's
ulcer.
right.
Oh, I see,
Yeah, and-
okay.
and- Yeah.
Okay, nothing.
Your
What if
hand
it
just
was,
went up when you
what if it
actually
was
make it
this
smaller
big
and
to
better.
start with, in other
That's
words,
right. So where would you measure that if
Ah,
that
that's a
was
good
one
question.
ulcer to begin with?
I think
You would still measure that.
I'd measure the
Center
middle.
part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Say that again. Or,
So
or
I'd
what you
still
could do
measure.
is you could measure all three areas
Add 'em up.
and add them up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
you
true.
could do that.
so measure all three and add them up.
Not
There's
three
going to be no
ulcers
way on
at-
a CRF to do that.
Yeah.
No.
I'll measure the big one in the middle
And forget the rest.
Yeah.
Call the rest a day.
I'd
That's what
probably
I do.
that's
If
what
it
I'd
was
do.
a big one that became.
Okay, so that's a different
I would
concept, but
just
let's
do-
just talk about where to make the
Okay,
measurement.
so
From here,
From
yeah.
here or from
there,
here?
In there.
From here probably, eh?
Yeah.
Yes.
To,
And
Go up,
There.
here.
About
No,
there,
back
about
down a
there.
little there. Somewhere in
No,
there.
up, up,
There, and then right
up,
here.
we all need pointers.
up, there.
why there?
You see that line?
Because you used to see that line there. I don't know what that line is.
A horizontal line.
Whatever, somewhere in
This
there.
vertical line.
Yeah.
These
Oh,
ones
yeah.
are gonna be so terrible,
Okay.
that's why measurement,
That's why we're gonna have trouble.
You almost have to do, globals.
No, but you know,
VAS global.
Lori's point is very well taken. It's intra-observer that you're. Modified Rodnan skin score, the exercise we did for the IL-6 study, there was systematic biases, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
But all you're worried about is
Okay.
Right.
how do we perform.
And across
Okay.
the ulcer probably from here to here?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is the ulcer, this definite ulcer. Do you start here or here?
There.
There,
Is
eh?
it an active or an indeterminate?
Yeah, I would call it indeterminate.
Indeterminate.
But if you call it active, let's call it active for this purpose.
If you
Yeah, I would start it there.
There to
There.
there,
Yeah.
not to there.
No.
Well,
There. To the end of the
There.
crust,
To
this
the
little
end.
bit of stuff is probably
if you call
skin.
it
Yeah.
active,
Yeah.
you have to go wider. If you call it indeterminate, you're gonna measure the scab, no?
Well, you are sort of measuring the scab because if it's indeterminate, you're assuming that what's outside the scab is healed.
Yeah, yeah.
The stuff outside the scab is almost always epithelialized. The scab is only over the part that's oozing and de-epithelialized. That's why the scab is there. So to me, basically this one, you're measuring the scab, which is from here to here. And then the other dimension,
Yes.
I guess somewhere
No,
No,
higher,
I'd go
higher,
higher.
smaller,
Correct.
smaller.
There.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah,
here
somewhere in there.
to
Yeah.
about here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Good. Agree.
Ooh,
Whoa.
That's hard.
Well, that's an
hard.
ulcer.
Is this an
Yeah.
ulcer or
Oh,
a
yeah,
fissure?
it's an ulcer.
It's an ulcer or a
Ulcer.
fissure?
It's
Ulcer
open.
this way over
It's
here. is
open,
an ulcer.
yeah.
This is an
That's
ulcer, right?
Yeah, I think that's not.
And so-
epithelialized. So
I
I'd
don't
have
know
to
what
do
you
that
do with
long
this.
axis and forget the little divot that goes off.
Forget this. Probably just
I
try to
well,
estimate this
yeah.
length, maybe 2 measurements, and maybe the biggest
Yeah, yeah. the
biggest width from here to
Yeah,
here,
or
eh?
even there's a width over here.
This
too,
is a
where
toughie.
there is,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a
So why
toughie
would
that
you take
width
the
there.
biggest width here and not go towards
Not
your
go all the
left
way
and
down. Okay.
There.
Because I think it's unmeasurable over there, so I just gave up.
I mean, basically, you're talking about an
I
ellipse.
gave up on that part.
You're talking about an ellipse that sort of is like
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to
So it's the
falsely
letter
make
Y.
it too large,
And it's
which
the
is
letter
which is the
Y.
bias you want in a way against
No,
the study.
don't, you just
No, that's
do the
fair.
best you can.
And so you're over. If you measure this and then
Good.
this, you're going to have an ellipse that includes this area here, which is normal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can't avoid it. I don't think.
math. I just did math in my brain and got rid of some. Got rid of the Y, did the T
Okay.
on the Y.
Okay.
Can't help it.
Okay. What do you think about this?
Well, first of
Just
all,
calcium
there's some
under there.
calcinosis under the skin, I think, right there, that little bulge over there.
Okay, so this was a trick picture. I just threw this in because this is calcinosis. We agree we're not going to count this.
Well,
Well,
let's
but
assume
you
there's no
can-
calcium.
no,
So
no,
that's
Oh,
I think
okay.
there's more
Measure.
calcium.
Okay.
Probably.
Right, you
Yeah.
can measure
Oh, yeah.
calcinosis, it just might not be eligible for study.
No.
But in an ideal world, we'd have something someday that heals
Okay.
stuff.
Okay. So let's pretend there's no calcium. This one here, you'd go from here to the end of the scar, probably the crust to here, and then from there across to there. Would you all agree to leave out this little bit
Yeah.
here?
Yes.
This one, gee, I probably would go maybe from here to here and maybe here across to there.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We agree? Okay. This is the same one, I think.
Oh my goodness, though.
This is the same one.
Jeepers, because again, this is that concept is, did one giant one become two babies?
Yeah,
Or
well,
were
we
they
don't
two
know.
to begin with?
Right. Now, if there were one to begin with, we would do what Marie suggests, probably. Call it one ulcer and measure the two parts. If they're two, they're two.
But then, you're right, the CRF isn't gonna go for that.
Is it
So
right?
they might say go for the larger of the two, like we don't have a convention, right? Because you can't have one ulcer with two parts.
Two measurements.
You
yeah.
either have one ulcer that became,
heal in two different locations.
right, but how do we, in a study, I would go for what's the
I guess-
larger of the
Right.
two, because.
Okay, so that's a study
you
issue. We don't have
can't
to
do
discuss
two-
that here.
No, but you can't do two measurements on one ulcer, like one ulcer to heal us two means it's actually twice as bad, and we're saying it's moderately better.
Okay,
That's
move
why
on.
it's
Okay.
a difficult convention.
Forget about the tip. I don't know what that is yet. But this one, maybe from there to the scar there.
Yeah.
Now, see, I just.
I would just do the
The
inner
top
part.
part of it.
You'd measure just this?
Yeah.
No, you have to be consistent.
I think we got to be consistent. This is indeterminate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to measure the whole thing.
Yeah.
From there to there. Across, it should be perpendicular, so it's a bit of a problem.
Well, sometimes we,
Maybe from there to there.
Bottom part is
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Top part
And
is
this
the
one,
ulcer.
same thing from there to there,
Yeah.
from there to there,
So
or
right?
you
would
know,
you
this
just
is-
measure the little pit thing on the last one? The little hole thing,
Yeah. What about this?
oh, jeepers,
Is this an ulcer?
no.
I don't know what this
Yeah.
is. We're not sure, so we're not sure. We don't call it anything. And this is a toughie, this one here.
The serpiginous.
Should we maybe divide it into two separate ulcers for measurement, or?
No, you can't.
Well, then just add them up. I mean, add them up. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, 'cause that's going to be hard to do on the case report form.
Yeah.
Unless you added it Well, up.
Unless you add it up.
Unless
yeah.
you did it.
Yeah,
The top
you could
part
add
of
it.
it could be considered perineum, yeah.
Here?
Right next to.
What about this though? This is not a perineum. Look, it extends.
Yeah.
It keeps going.
Would there be any value in saying that it is a serpiginous ulcer and you just for those take the longest
Yeah, that's
and
what I
the
think.
smallest? I don't
Yeah,
know.
so-
Just develop a
The
way
longest
of,
in a straight line?
the
So
longest
you
in a
take
straight
the,
line.
go
yeah.
from there and go down and
Yeah.
go further down. There
Oh,
till
straight
there,
line like this.
all the straight line, and
Right.
then you take whatever the perpendicular axis to that is.
Yeah, maybe.
From
here to-
But
from
you're
here to
right,
here.
if you were
There.
calculating surface area.
It's awfully big.
You would be
No.
way off.
That's right. We can't say that it's surface area.
Yeah, you're way.
It can't
This
be.
one would be hugely off.
That's
The other
right.
one I showed you would be somewhat off. We'd be including some of the normal skin in it, right? In the
Right.
ellipse concept.
We'd be including a lot of the normal skin. This is really.
My tendency would be to break it up, and it's true, the case report form
But
would
what
be a
if you
problem.
did the longest and the shortest? I don't know that we'd be overestimating all that point. Anyways, in this one here,
It would be
maybe the
overestimated.
longest and the shortest.
The longest from here to
Axis.
here,
Yeah.
Longest in a
And
straight
then
and the
line.
short like
shortest
here to
right
here.
there. Yeah.
I see.
And then you
That would
have a very
compensate.
oblong there.
That's
Yeah.
not a bad idea.
Now the active ulcer, can I use the mouse? Yeah,
Yes.
this is active ulcer that you're showing here and still not, let's assume this is active ulcer out here.
Well, everyone said we don't know what that is.
Well, let's assume that this
Okay.
is the active ulcer and
Yeah.
this is the healing aspect of that ulcer.
Oh, okay.
There's something. Shouldn't we be assessing out here what this is?
Yeah.
See, I thought that was
Ra-
skin
That's
that
the good
came
question.
in. And that's
Rather than all
why,
that?
under the nail there, I kind of decided I had to ignore.
Yeah.
So this is tough. We're having trouble coming to consensus here.
Yeah.
So we all agreed that we will be looking at the whole indeterminate area, not
Yes,
just focusing
that,
on
that
the
we
active.
agree,
Okay.
yeah. So I think Marie's suggestion might be the best one. If
For-
it's so
for the
complicated like this.
But I think I'd still have to do what the CRF told me. If the
Yeah.
CRF said widest and 90
Yeah.
degree to the widest,
Yeah.
I would just know it's an overestimate.
From here to
That's
here.
life, right?
Okay.
Because I don't think
Yeah.
I can make a new rule on each
No,
one.
so it would be
because
somewhere
every
down, you'd
one
pick a
of
point
them-
here, here, and then the perpendicular would
Yeah.
be the narrow point
Yeah.
in the middle.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I try to, in my mind, right?
Now
So
this
it's not a
one-
good picture.
But
I
you
would
would
say,
start-
this is active in here. This
Correct.
is probably healing skin.
Skin,
Yes.
Mhm.
So I would go from here, not the end of the scar in this one, because this is not normal. I would start here, move
You go to
across to
there.
here,
There.
and
And
then from
perpendicular.
here
Yes.
to
Yes.
here. You all
Yeah.
agree?
Agree.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh.
Oh, my goodness.
Is this the one we just did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
We all
yeah.
grown. We know that this is easier, eh?
Yeah.
So this is tough. I guess this is the ulcer here. Eh?
Well, Rick, if you keep drawing
Well,
it,
this
it
I don't
goes
know.
around.
What if it
bigger.
goes
Oh,
over
no,
the
no,
tip?
no. Yeah, I think,
now you
I
gotta
think it's a
capture-
bigger one than what you're drawing.
Yeah.
Maybe from right from the fingertip
Yeah,
here.
if you go
Yes.
from the.
But you're not going to be able to do that with a
the
caliper.
nail.
You'd have to, if it goes over
If-
the
Yeah.
top.
Right,
Yeah.
or
You're
around the
Problem.
side.
There's a problem with
Oh,
With the third
cervix,
If you had a-
curvature,
area.
curvature.
Right.
so
If you had a flexible
what-
caliper, you could do
I
it
don't
if
know
you.
if I've done any studies where we've measured them, because I don't know how I measure that, yeah, because you're right, do you count this and then say the other side of it?
That's another one where
Yes.
you'd have to add it.
Well,
But it's not one ulcer, but add this plus X plus Y.
Counted as an ulcer, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, I don't know if this is completely circumferential.
Right.
If it is, we wouldn't count it.
Right.
Well,
This area could be counted maybe.
if I had an ulcer that got bigger, it'd still be counted, like it, so it came in like this and now it went psh, that still is that person's ulcer. It's not all of a sudden, it's like I can't count it. So it would be worse.
Yeah,
it
because
would
this
be
is not
bigger.
gangrene.
No, this isn't,
Right, no.
and that happens sometimes, right? You see them big and then all of a sudden, you know, they get infected, whatever happens, and then they're way bigger on both, like they go around, so we do see that. As a
So you count this as an
But you
ulcer.
couldn't measure that with those calipers.
I don't know what you do here.
I think I
You try your
measure-
best from here,
try a
from here
longest
to here.
access to the thing, and then that
Yeah,
way.
okay.
But you're right, when it's going around to the other side, I don't
It's
know
tough.
how you'd handle
It's
it.
tough, okay. This one, I think you'd go from here,
To there,
To-
yeah.
unless this is a bit de-epithelialized, I might include that, right?
Yeah.
To there, and then probably here to about there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one, tough to tell, but I would say
Yeah, the longer
sorry,
one's this way,
here
right? It's perpendicular.
to here.
Bigger, Yeah,
And here to here.
yeah, that one's not as bad as that last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, Philippe, we could take a second. We're gonna bring in a patient, okay?